Hey y'all, what's up, real deal? This your girl, you already know. Now let me tell you this, y'all. We got a family member, Lori Vallow, Doomday's mom, want to speak out on her guilty verdict. I am so graceful and blessed that those two kids, Tylee and JJ, they got justice. They didn't deserve this. But Lori, you just go ahead on and get some help. Cause I don't know what to say about this. I don't say no child deserve this. It's think about the kids, y'all. It's not about the crimps in her hair and red lipsticks. It's about justice for those kids. Okay? Look at it like that. But let's check this out, y'all. Come on, real deal. Got to get y'all reaction behind this. Okay, y'all doing a good job now. Okay, here we go. Listen at this. And she looking sad now. She ain't smiling no more now.
Jury in Ada County found her guilty on all counts Friday afternoon. Those counts are murder and conspiracy to commit murder, as well as grand theft in the deaths of her two kids, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and her husband's late wife, Tammy Daybell. The judge said Vallow will be sentenced within 3 months from now. She could face up to life in prison. News Channel 7's Shira Matsuzawa talked to J.J.'s grandparents, Tylee's aunt, and Lori Vallow's uncle about the outcome of the trial.
For the families of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, Friday's guilty verdict was more than 3 years of waiting, prayers, and tears.
Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all.
JJ's grandparents, Kay and Larry Woodcock, talked with media moments after the verdict came down.
We are elated with this.
I want to personally hug every one of those jurors.
While the Woodcocks were in court when that verdict was read, many relatives were also watching from across the country. Family members like Tylee's aunt, Annie Cushing.
I was just absolutely over the moon.
Annie was in court the first couple of weeks of the trial and sat just feet away from Lori.
I was surprised by how I felt when I saw her. Like, I was expecting more rage and just like, how dare you? But she looked like an animal caught in a trap. I walked away with the realization she also took herself down. She lived a charmed, privileged life, and she threw it all away.
Lori's uncle, Rex Connor, had a similar experience when he attended the trial on 2 separate occasions.
You make eye contact with Lolo, and you have that faint smile, well, we knew the person that preceded you. When you make eye contact, I don't feel like we know this person. I don't speak with Lori, but my sister Janice, her mother, does every week. And, when I'm talking with Janice, she just relays Lori is still in her delusion.
Do you have a message for Lori?
I've thought through, like, if there's anything I would want to say to her, it would fall on deaf ears. She's a psychopath. She has no concern whatsoever about the pain and suffering she's caused other people.
That's
and it's
right.
that pain
Them babies.
that makes the guilty verdict they've been waiting for still wrapped in sadness because it doesn't bring the kids back.
It's the most bittersweet you can imagine. Just the sadness, but the relief from all this.
Papa,
Mm.
Papa, wish you were here in other circumstances.
Mm.
Tylee, Papa loves you. Tammy, I never met you. Tammy, you are part of our life.
That's sad, y'all. That right there. Whoo! This here trial right here was so touchy for me. Yeah, let's check out Lori.
Epidemic Sound provides you with restriction-free
Lori
music.
over here acting like she got mental issues now. Get over it, Lori.
Joined by two News Nation contributors now, former CIA officer and FBI special agent Tracy Walder and criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari. Thank you both. We have a lot of questions, so let's start with you, Sarah. Reports late yesterday afternoon claim that Lori will be extradited to Arizona. Can you help us understand why, and what is the likely outcome for her there?
Well, Natasha, okay, so remember, she has a pending open case involving her brother Alex, who's dead, and her as co-conspirators in the murder of her ex-husband Charles. Now, interestingly, there's similarities between these two cases, and the evidence in the Arizona case was admitted in the trial in Idaho. But there's a difference in the charges, in that in Idaho, she was also charged with murder, first-degree murder. In Arizona, she is not. And that's important to note because it relates to the death penalty. So under Arizona law, even though it is a death penalty state, the charge of conspiracy is not eligible for the death penalty. So at least, it looks like she went unscathed with the death penalty twice. The Idaho court set that aside, and then in Arizona, she's not death penalty qualified. But this is a case that obviously not only the convictions in Idaho will be admitted against her, but also the evidence in Idaho will be admitted against her because of just the pattern and scheme that is common between these two cases involving the same co-conspirator. So, I think the idea here is she should potentially consider engaging in plea negotiations in Arizona. I'm not sure what there is to gain because the evidence is pretty strong.
I mean, even if she is convicted in Arizona, are we looking at another life sentence? I mean, tangibly, does this make any difference at this point?
I mean, look, in Idaho, interestingly, we've been talking about LWOP, life without parole, but in Idaho, she's exposed to 10 to life. So she could, probation, doing an assessment of what the recommended sentence should be, could potentially give her decades and not life, although that I think is unlikely. But her exposure in Idaho is 10 to life, and the likelihood of what she'll get is life without parole on multiple counts. And so if that is what her sentence, in fact, will be, then I'm not sure what difference it would make in Arizona if she got yet another life sentence that would
It'll make a difference.
Consecutive.
Okay, Tracy, you say that digital forensics are going to be key going forward. Help us understand why.
So to me, really as a former FBI agent, and even in the CIA, digital evidence is extremely important because typically it doesn't lie, and it's really difficult for it to be manipulated. Certainly we have blood evidence and those kinds of things, but we have seen multiple cases where it has been kind of mishandled, it hasn't been processed correctly, and then that provides an issue for the defense to use at trial, and rightly so. And so I think in this case, because she's looking at those charges against Alex and then Mr. Vallow, and then also we have to look at, her niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux, I believe, and he's also someone who had an attempt on his life, and I think that's going to be brought up as well. And right now they have a lot of digital evidence, mainly from Alex, quite frankly. I know he's not here anymore to tell his story, going back and forth from Idaho to Gilbert, and really putting him at the scene of the crime with his phone. And so I think that's going to be very critical in moving forward with this case. But I'm really not sure, really, I agree with Sarah. I'm not sure what she's going to be able to kind of deal in terms of striking a plea deal at this point.
Okay, Sarah, let's talk about the prosecution quickly. They told jurors in closing arguments that Vallow was driven purely by, quote, money, power, and sex. That DNA analyst also testified that a hair of hers was found on the duct tape buried with JJ, that it did match Lori. What piece of evidence in the end do you think was most convincing to the jury?
I mean, I definitely don't think it was the hair. I think that was the most defensible piece of evidence, just because, of course, a mother's hair could be found on a child's pajamas, on the blanket that was buried with him. I think it really was, I think the prosecution did a great job presenting motive, the idea that she believed in these prophecies that all led to death. And that was the power, part of their theory. And then the money was obviously, I don't, personally.
Okay, y'all. You know, I'm done with Lori. I just glad that the kids got their justice. I'm glad for the family who fought for these kids. You know what I mean? The prosecutors, like I said, they did an awesome job in finding her guilty. And it was no more, like you say, it was nothing else to say. So I don't want to follow Lori Vallow Doomsday woman. I don't want to follow her no longer. I'm glad that I sat here. I felt sleep. I was depressed. I went a whole lot with Lori Vallow case, but it ended right here with me with her. I don't even want to hear her name no more. I mean, because I'm gonna hear her name, but I'm not following her with the next case because I fought for this case right here. And real deal, y'all put in the comments, man. Y'all doing an awesome job with y'all comments, and y'all follow me throughout the case, and I appreciate it. Appreciate all the cases that y'all choose to follow me through. Okay, all right, y'all. I'm gone.